The signal from the stars. The discovery. Dr. Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the quantum analysis screen for the 100th time that night. The coffee in her mug had gone cold hours ago, but she couldn't tear herself away from the data streaming across her workstation. Deep Space Research Station Omega-9 floated silently in the void beyond Pluto's orbit, its sensors constantly scanning for signs of intelligent life among the stars. Sarah had dedicated the last 15 years of her life to xenobiology, the study of potential alien life forms. Most of her colleagues thought she was chasing shadows, but Sarah believed that somewhere in the vast cosmos, other forms of life were trying to communicate. Tonight, her faith was about to be rewarded in ways she never imagined. The quantum resonance detector suddenly erupted in a cascade of alerts. Sarah's heart jumped as she watched the impossible happen before her eyes. A signal, unlike anything in Earth's databases, was pouring through subspace from the direction of the Kepler 442 system, over 1,200 light-years away. The message. The signal wasn't just random noise or natural phenomena. It was structured, mathematical, and desperately urgent. Sarah's hands flew across her keyboard as she ran the data through every decryption algorithm she could access. What emerged from the quantum static made her blood run cold. The message was a biological distress call, transmitted using principles of quantum entanglement that humanity had only theoretical knowledge of. The senders identified themselves as the Zephyrians, an ancient species that had thrived among the stars for over 50,000 years. But now, they were dying. The transmission contained detailed biological scans, star charts, and what appeared to be historical records. Sarah watched in horror as the data painted a picture of entire worlds being consumed by something the Zephyrians called the Gray Death. This wasn't war or natural disaster. It was something far worse. The Gray Death was a biological entity that consumed all organic matter it touched, breaking down complex life forms into base nutrients and spreading across planets like a living cancer. The Zephyrians' advanced medical technology, their sophisticated immune systems, their millennia of scientific knowledge, none of it mattered. The Gray Death adapted to every defense, learned from every countermeasure, and grew stronger with each world it devoured. The debate. Within 6 hours of Sarah's discovery, representatives from every major nation on Earth had gathered in the emergency session chamber of the Global Defense Council. The mood was tense as world leaders, military generals, and chief scientists examined the alien transmission. President Maria Santos of the Earth Federation stood before the assembly, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were discussing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are faced with a decision that will define humanity's place in the universe. An alien species is facing extinction, and they've asked for our help. General Robert Hayes, commander of Earth's Space Defense Force, shook his head grimly. With respect, Madam President, this could be a trap. We know nothing about these Zephyrians except what they've told us. For all we know, this Gray Death could be a weapon they created that got out of control. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward, her scientific credentials giving weight to her words. General, I've analyzed every byte of their transmission. The biological data alone represents knowledge that would take our scientists centuries to develop. The mathematical proofs they've included show understanding of quantum mechanics that surpasses our own. These beings aren't trying to deceive us. They're dying. The Chinese representative, Dr. Liu Wei, raised a crucial point. Even if we wanted to help, how could we? Our fastest ships would take thousands of years to reach their system. By the time we arrived, there would be nothing left to save. Sarah had been waiting for this question. That's where Project Prometheus comes in. A hush fell over the assembly. Project Prometheus was Earth's most classified research initiative, known only to the highest levels of government and military command. For 20 years, humanity had been secretly developing faster-than-light travel using theories reverse-engineered from mysterious energy signatures detected throughout the galaxy. The secret, Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the director of Project Prometheus, activated a holographic display that showed the sleek design of humanity's first interstellar vessel. The Prometheus is designed for exactly this type of mission. Our experimental quantum drive can fold space-time, allowing us to traverse the distance to Kepler 442 in just under 2 weeks. The room erupted in whispered conversations. Many of the assembled leaders were seeing the ship for the first time, despite having approved funding for its construction. "But can it work?" asked President Santos. Dr. Harper nodded confidently. "We've run thousands of simulations and successfully tested the drive on unmanned probes. The technology is sound, but this would be its first manned mission across such a vast distance." General Hayes leaned forward in his chair. "What about crew? A mission like this would require our best people, and there's no guarantee they'd return alive." "I've already identified potential crew members," Sarah interjected. "Captain Marcus Rodriguez has more deep space experience than anyone else in our military. Dr. Michael Park is our leading expert on exotic biological threats. Elena Vasquez is our most skilled communication specialist, and Sergeant Rita O'Connor leads our elite xenobiology response team." The debate continued for hours. Some argued that humanity had no obligation to risk their lives for unknown aliens. Others worried about the precedent it would set, or the resources it would consume. But gradually, a consensus began to emerge. The decision. President Santos called for a final vote as dawn broke over the mountains surrounding the Defense Council headquarters. "The question before us is simple," she said. "Do we reach out to help a dying species, knowing the risks, or do we turn away and let them face extinction alone?" The vote was closer than Sarah had hoped, but the result was clear. By a margin of 3 votes, the Global Defense Council authorized the launch of the Prometheus mission. As the assembly dispersed, Sarah found herself standing alone in the chamber, looking up at the holographic display of the alien signal. Somewhere among the stars, an entire species was counting down their final days, not knowing that help was coming from a small blue planet they'd never heard of. The Zephyrians had called Earth a young species in their transmission, barely evolved from their primitive origins. They had no idea that this young species possessed something that their ancient wisdom had never developed: the stubborn refusal to abandon hope, even when facing impossible odds. Preparation. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of activity. The Prometheus, which had been undergoing final systems checks in Earth's most secure orbital facility, was rapidly prepared for its historic mission. The ship was unlike anything humanity had built before, a fusion of cutting-edge human engineering and theoretical physics that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Captain Marcus Rodriguez arrived at the orbital facility with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. At 45, he had spent most of his adult life preparing for humanity's first contact with alien life. He just hadn't expected it to happen under such desperate circumstances. Dr. Michael Park brought with him samples of Earth's most advanced medical nanobots, microscopic machines designed to fight biological threats at the cellular level. If the Gray Death was truly as adaptive as the Zephyrian data suggested, humanity's chaotic, unpredictable approach to medicine might be their only advantage. Elena Vasquez had spent the last 3 days learning the basics of Zephyrian communication protocols. The quantum-based language was unlike anything humans had encountered, but her background in theoretical linguistics gave her the foundation to establish basic communication. Sergeant Rita O'Connor packed equipment that had never been tested against alien biological threats. Her team's xenobiology training had always been theoretical, but now they would face the ultimate test of their preparations: the launch. As the Prometheus prepared for departure, Sarah Chen watched from the observation deck of the orbital facility. The ship's quantum drive began to charge, creating visible distortions in spacetime around its hull. This was humanity's greatest gamble, sending their best people into the unknown to save strangers they had never met. The final communication from the Zephyrians had arrived just hours before launch. Their remaining population had dwindled to fewer than 10,000 individuals, scattered across fortified bunkers on their homeworld. They had perhaps days left before the Gray Death overwhelmed their final defenses. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the communication system. "Control, this is Prometheus. All systems green, crew ready for departure. Prometheus, you are cleared for quantum jump. Good luck, and bring our new friends home." The ship vanished in a flash of twisted light, folding space around itself as it leaked across the galaxy toward a dying world. Behind it, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, its people unaware that their species had just taken its first step toward becoming the protectors of all life in the universe. The journey into darkness. Racing against time. The Prometheus sliced through folded spacetime like a needle through fabric, its quantum drive maintaining a stable corridor between dimensions that allowed near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching the swirling chaos of hyperspace through the main view screen. After 3 days of travel, they were already halfway to their destination, a journey that would have taken conventional spacecraft millennia. "Navigation report," Rodriguez called out, his voice steady despite the magnitude of their mission. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, their navigation officer, checked her instruments carefully. "We're maintaining course and speed, Captain. Estimated arrival at Kepler 442 in 10 days, 14 hours. Dr. Michael Park emerged from the medical bay, his expression troubled. "Captain, I need to show you something. The biological data from the Zephyrians. I've been running analysis on the Gray Death samples they transmitted, and what I found is disturbing." Rodriguez followed Park to the medical section, where holographic displays showed the microscopic structure of the alien plague. The Gray Death wasn't just a biological weapon or natural disease. It was something far more sophisticated. The true nature of the enemy. "Look at these cellular structures," Park explained, manipulating the holographic display to show the entity at different magnifications. The Gray Death doesn't just consume biological matter. It analyzes it first, every species it encounters. It studies their DNA, their immune responses, their biological weaknesses. Then it adapts. Rodriguez studied the data with growing concern. "You're saying it learns?" "More than that. It's intelligent. Each world it consumes makes it smarter, stronger, more adaptable." The Zephyrians mentioned that it started slowly, taking months to consume small settlements. But by the time it reached their major population centers, it was overwhelming entire cities in hours. Elena Vasquez joined them, carrying a data pad with the latest communications from the Zephyrian survivors. "I've been analyzing their historical records. The Gray Death first appeared in their system over 50 years ago, but it didn't originate there. The quantum signatures suggest it traveled from outside their galaxy. The implications were staggering. If the Gray Death was capable of interstellar travel, Earth itself could be at risk." Rodriguez made a command decision that would define the rest of their mission. "Dr. Park, I want you to work with the Zephyrians to develop countermeasures. Use whatever resources you need. Elena, maintain constant communication with their survivors. We need to know everything they've learned about fighting this thing." Evidence of destruction. As they approached the edge of Zephyrian space, the Prometheus encountered the first evidence of the Gray Death's devastating passage. Long-range sensors detected the remains of what had once been a thriving solar system. Where planets should have orbited their star, only barren rock remained, stripped of every trace of organic matter. Sergeant Rita O'Connor and her xenobiology teams studied the sensor readings with professional detachment, but Rodriguez could see the fear in their eyes. "Sergeant, what's your assessment?" "Sir, based on the scale of destruction, we're looking at something that consumed the biomass of entire worlds. The energy output alone suggests an entity of incredible size and power. If this thing reaches Earth..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone on the ship understood the stakes. Dr. Park's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Captain, please report to Medical Bay immediately. I've made a breakthrough." Humanity's advantage. Rodriguez found Park working frantically at his research station, surrounded by displays showing comparative biological data. "Captain, I think I know why the Zephyrians call us for help. And it's not just because we have advanced technology." Park activated a holographic display showing human DNA alongside Zephyrian genetic structures. The Zephyrians are an ancient, highly evolved species. Their genetic code is elegant, efficient, perfectly organized. But look at human DNA. Rodriguez stared at the chaotic, seemingly random structure of human genetic material. "It looks like a mess." "Exactly. Humans evolved on what the galaxy considers a death world. A planet with extreme conditions, constant environmental challenges, and biological threats. Our DNA is chaotic because we had to adapt to survive anything our world could throw at us. We're genetically unpredictable." The significance began to dawn on Rodriguez. And the Gray Death learns by analyzing biological patterns. Right. It studies a species, identifies their weaknesses, and adapts to exploit them. But human biology is so chaotic and unpredictable that there might not be clear patterns for it to exploit. We could be naturally resistant to its adaptation mechanisms. First contact with the survivors. Elena Vasquez's communication station suddenly erupted in activity. "Captain, I've established direct contact with the Zephyrian survivors. They're requesting immediate assistance." The main view screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what appeared to be an underground bunker. A tall, graceful being with silver skin and large, expressive eyes looked directly at them. When it spoke, its voice was melodic, but filled with desperate hope. "Humans of Earth, I am Scholar Zefkane of the Zephyrian Council. We had not dared to hope that our call would be answered so quickly. Your species' willingness to cross the void to aid strangers gives us hope in our darkest hour." Rodriguez stepped forward. "Scholar Zefkane, I am Captain Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We've come to help in any way we can. What is your current status?" The alien's expression grew grave. "We have perhaps 2 of your Earth days before our final defenses fail. The Gray Death has learned to penetrate our deepest bunkers. It grows stronger with each life it claims, and we are few now. Fewer than 8,000 survivors across our entire world." Dr. Park moved into view of the communication pickup. "Scholar, I'm Dr. Park, a specialist in biological threats. We've been studying the data you transmitted, and we may have discovered something important. Human biology appears to be resistant to the Gray Death's adaptation mechanisms." For the first time since the communication began, hope flickered in the Zephyrian's large eyes. "Your species truly is remarkable. In all our millennia of existence, we have never encountered beings willing to risk so much for others they have never met. The galaxy has underestimated the people of Earth." The final approach. As the Prometheus dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, the crew gathered on the bridge to witness their destination. What they saw would haunt their dreams for years to come. The Zephyrian homeworld hung before them like a gray, cancerous wound against the star field. What had once been a beautiful blue-green planet covered in vast oceans and continents was now a writhing mass of gray biological matter. The Gray Death had consumed not just the life on the planet's surface, but had somehow infected the very atmosphere, creating a shroud of living matter that pulsed with alien intelligence. Sensors detect massive biological activity across the entire planetary surface, reported Lieutenant Kim. The entity appears to have achieved planetary consciousness. Elena Vasquez's communication station lit up with incoming signals. "Captain, I'm receiving multiple transmissions from underground locations. The survivors are scattered across 17 separate bunker complexes, but the Gray Death is actively hunting them." Rodriguez studied the tactical display, his mind racing through possible strategies. "Dr. Park, how long do you need to deploy the nanobots?" "The nanobots will need to be released directly into the planet's biosphere. We'll need to get close enough to the surface to ensure proper dispersal, but at that range, the Gray Death will definitely detect us." Sergeant O'Connor stepped forward. "Captain, my team is ready for surface deployment. If we can establish a beachhead and protect the deployment site, Dr. Parkin released the nanobots directly into the entity's main mass. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Elena, inform the Zephyrian survivors that help is coming. Tell them to hold on for just a little longer. As the Prometheus moved into orbital position above the dying world, its crew prepared for humanity's first battle against a cosmic threat. They carried with them the hopes of an ancient alien species and the determination of a young world that refused to accept defeat. The gray death pulsed across the planet's surface below them, sensing the approach of new life to consume. But for the first time in its existence across multiple galaxies, it was about to encounter a species that evolution had forged in the crucible of a death world. Beings whose very unpredictability made them the perfect weapon against a predator that fed on biological certainty. The battle for the Zephyrian homeworld was about to begin, and with it, humanity's transformation from an isolated species into the galaxy's unlikely guardians of life itself.